Okay, so today we'll look at how you deal with conflicts in different branches on Git. So again, I've got this kind of test repository on GitHub, and it just contains a single text file that's got 4 lines in it. Okay, that I've just written line 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what we're going to do is I'm going to pretend that we're 2 different users. So I've got 2 different folders here, user 1 and user 2. We're going to use, in those different folders, we're going to make changes that conflict each other and then try and merge them together, basically. So first of all, I'll just clone the repository into the 2 folders. So obviously we looked at how to do this in previous videos. Okay, so we've cloned the repository into this folder for user 1, and then we're going to make another one for user 2. Okay, fine. So one of the things we looked at in the previous videos was we talked about branching. So if we look at this sort of Insights tab and then this Network tab, at the moment for this repository, all we've got is a master branch with some commits on it. The master branch is where we keep our code that we know works when we want to experiment or develop new stuff. Usually we take a branch from the master, use that to develop our code, make mistakes, etc. And then when we think that's ready, only then do we merge it onto the master. So it's good to get into the habit of doing that. So let's pretend that user 1 is going to be doing some sort of development. So we're going to start by creating a branch. So we're going to call this dev1, for example. So we covered this in previous videos. Easy. So we check out onto dev1. Then if we try and push, Git tells us that we need to set this upstream branch. So we just do what it tells us. Then we've got this development branch that at the moment is the same as the master branch. So then user 1 goes in and says, well, I don't like the look of line 2, so I'm going to change that to user 1 has changed line 2. Save it. And then we're going to, as usual, we'll do our git status just to check, because we might have forgotten what we've done. We say, okay, yeah, file 1 has changed. So we're going to add that for our commit. We're going to stage it for our next commit. You can add the file directly by typing in file1.txt, or you can just add everything that's been updated with this flag, this -u. Git status again confirms that that's ready to be committed. It's staged in kind of Git language. So we'll say, okay, we're going to commit with the message change made by user 1, and we're going to push. So standard stuff really. And then if we refresh on the network graph, you see, oh yeah, there we go. That is the commit that's been made by user 1, and it's on this separate branch. So far so good. Okay, so now we're going to pretend that user 2, oops. Okay, so now we're going to pretend that user 2 is changing some stuff as well, as they're working at the same time or something. So in our user 2 version, they have also created a branch. So user 2 comes in. Usually when you start work, the first thing you want to do is git pull. So that brings in any changes that anyone else has made, so we can see it's identified that this new branch, development 1, has been created. Okay, that's fine. User 2 is going to get on with whatever they need to do. So they're going to make a branch called dev2. check out onto it, and then they follow Git's instructions, which I do have to do every time. For some reason, I just can't remember this command, so I do this every time. Never mind. It's getting old. So off we go. Okay, now we've got our development 2 branch. So remember that user 1 changed line 2. Now user 2 is going to go in here and say, well, actually I'm going to change line 2 as well. Changes line 2. And let's say they're going to change line 3. Okay, so we've created a conflict now, or we will do when we commit this, because now, or a conflict between branches dev1 and dev2, because in dev1 user 1's changed this, and then in dev2 user 2's also changed this, but in a different way. So what's our status? Yeah, okay, so we're going to add everything that's been updated. Going to commit this and say change by user 2. Then we push that onto GitHub. And then we should be able to see in the sort of network diagram that, okay, yeah, we've got 2 branches that have come off master, and they've both got different changes in them. Okay, so now let's say, well, now user 1 gives user 2 a phone call and says, well, hang on, I've been changing stuff as well. Perhaps we should combine the work that we've done, and then once we've combined those, then we'll put it onto the master branch. So user 2 says, yeah, that's fine, I'll do that. So we're still in Git for user 2. So let's say they say, well, let's have a look at the branches that we've got. So when you write git branch, it shows you all the branches that are just local. So this is stored on your computer, basically. If you want to see the ones that are also on GitHub, so they're on the remote repository, then you say, well, git branch all, and then this red stuff shows all the branches. So on the remote, it says there's a development 2 branch, which we created, that's fine. But there's also a development 1 branch. So okay, we know there's a development 1 branch, and they can get onto it if they like with their git checkouts dev1. But what we're going to do, because we use a 2, we're going to stay in our dev2 branch, because that's our 1. We don't want to necessarily change what user 1 is doing or get involved, but we do want to merge their changes onto our branch. So we're combining our work. So as we showed in previous videos, we're going to say, well, that's fine, git merge dev1. So that's going to bring branch dev1 into dev2. Okay, and now this is where we kind of deviate from the previous videos, because it says there's a conflict, a merge conflict in file 1. Automatic merge failed. Fix conflicts, then commit the result. And now we've got this sort of merging message written here. So now we'll take a look at what that really means. So a good thing to do at this point is another git status. See what's going on. And it's saying that both have modified, so both branches basically have modified file 1. And it's saying what you need to do is you need to go into file 1, find out where the conflicts are, sort them out, and then commit file 1, and then your merge will be complete. So if we open file 1, what we see is that actually Git has written for us what changes have actually occurred. So what we can see is that Git has actually drawn a load of stuff over our code to tell us where the conflicts have occurred. So it's drawn basically this bit, and this bit. So head means where we are now, basically. So that is the end of the branch development 2. And then all this stuff up until these kind of equal signs, they're the changes that were made by user 2, i.e. us. And then underneath that, these are the changes that were made to the same lines, but from branch development 1. So it's telling us where the conflict is, then it's up to us to make decisions about what we're going to keep and what we're not going to keep. So for example, as user 2, let's say we take a look at this and we say, oh, actually, yeah, I can see what user 1 was thinking here. This is something that we should keep. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to overwrite what we wrote as user 2. Then we might also say, well, having said that, actually, this line I'd like to keep what we did, not necessarily what user 1 did. So we're going to delete that, and then obviously we delete everything that Git has drawn over our code. And so what we've done is we've gone into the file, we've looked at it, Git's told us where the conflicts are, and then we've made a decision ourselves about how they're going to be combined. So we can save that, go back to Git, and it says, okay, what you need to do is basically commit this file 1 after you've made the changes you think are necessary, and then that will complete the merge. It's going to add file1.txt. So I'm going to commit with merging dev1 and dev2, and then off it goes. Okay, so I'll just refresh this, and then you can see on this diagram, hopefully, it indicates that the changes from dev1 have then been merged into dev2. And so if we look at this, we should have our combination of changes, basically. So we've now got the changes made by user 1 on line 2 and user 2 at line 3. Okay, so now let's say user 2 says, okay, everything's fine. I've merged our 2 bits of code and it's all working and it's good. So I'm going to finally put it onto the master branch. So I'm going to go back to user 2's folder and open up Git again. What we're going to do is we're just going to do like a final check that the master branch hasn't changed since the last time, since we started this development branch, basically. It's because if it has changed, then we want to make sure that there's no conflicts, etc., before we stick it onto the master branch. If there are conflicts, then you don't want to be dealing with them in the master branch itself. It's just for good practice, basically. You want the master branch to contain your code that you've already sorted out, etc. So I'm going to check out onto the master branch. I'm going to do a git pull to make sure we're up to date. It says you're already up to date, so in this particular case, we know that the master branch hasn't changed at all since we started doing our development stuff. This is nothing to stop us doing a git merge with development 2. Again, it's a fast forward. It says we can go into here and see that now we've got the change made by user 1 and the change made by user 2, so they've been merged, so that's all fine. Quick check of the status. It says, okay, your branch is ahead by 3 commits, so do a git push. That's fine. So now that merge between development 2 and master should now just be pushed onto GitHub. And so there it is. Now the master branch is up to date with development 2, and those are the separate commits that were made along the way. So that's how you, in a really basic way, that's how you deal with conflicting changes using Git.